Early Childhood Care and Education in Zambia, an integral part of education provision, by Shannon Anderson, EDU 534. What does the researcher set out to do? The researcher in this article is interrogating the need for early child care and education programs in Zambia. The researcher supports all forms of education, including early childhood education. The researcher is able to do this by looking at pre-existing evidence among primary schools across the country. Most of the research was done by looking at the United States, who often have more resources, as well as South Africa, who are the more well-established and better financially suited parts of Africa. This does not pertain to Zambia, who are typically underfunded, understaffed, and overcrowded. What is the researcher looking to find out? How can new programs be successfully developed and sustained when the current crisis in the primary and basic school exists? Is Zambia embracing the early childhood education reform movement before accurately evaluating the current educational provision to which it is already committed? This article highlights a circumstance where intentional aid agencies and the MOE have encouraged its implementation without adequately assessing Zambia's educational situation, or considering the financial and pragmatic implications of its promotion. The role of MOE. MOE stands for Ministry of Education. Currently under the MOE, educational provision is guided by the National Education Policy document, Educating Our Future, which focuses on equitable access to quality education at all levels. MOE defines early child care development and education as the level of education, both formal and informal, which a child from birth to age 6 undergoes prior to reaching the age of 7 years of entry into a primary or basic school. The establishment of an early child care education program would necessitate financial support from the MOE, funding which is desperately needed in the primary school subsector of education. Educational background in Zambia. The research starts out by giving out general information about Zambia's educational background. Preschools are operated by local authorities, local communities, NGOs, and private individuals. Curriculum of private preschools are outdated and inadequate, where the age groups and home environments are not conducive to learning. Lack of instructional materials, textbooks, and teacher manuals, over-enrollment of students, and a severe teacher shortage affect the quality of schooling in Zambia. Teacher quality. The MOE is the sole employer for all teachers in public schools, and several times a year a list of new teachers' postings is released, which states where a particular teacher has been posted or assigned, or at least for a 2-year period. Teachers usually wait 2 or 3 years until they are posted because there are insufficient funds in the educational budget to hire the necessary number of teachers each year. Educators, teachers, and administrators in southern Zambia are appealing for a more intentional pledge by governmental leaders to enhance primary education. Researcher author's goal. The author and researchers of this article join in the plea for increased MOE determination to provide a meaningful education for all primary and basic school age children, compromising a much smaller student-to-teacher ratios, an increased number of teachers, an adequate number of desks, chairs, and textbooks per classroom, and available essential resources such as maps, charts, markers, poster paper, and pencils. Providing for these existing needs is imperative before embarking on creating a national program for ECCE. The authors and researchers of this article urge the educational leaders of Zambia to thoughtfully assess their commitment to primary and basic school education before adding more financial stress to an already strained educational budget. Similarities between the researcher and the course. Both the researcher and the information we have learned in the course reflects on the importance of quality teachers. In the textbook, the overall quality of a school system rests on the quality of its teachers, and a quality of teacher depends on the system in place to support them. Stewart, 2012, page 87. The researcher puts an emphasis on the teacher quality and training in the article. Differences between the researcher and the course. According to the researcher, teachers usually wait 2 or 3 years until jobs are posted because there are insufficient funds in the education budget to hire the necessary number of teachers each year. Despite these known restrictions, students still attend teacher training colleges and desire to become teachers. There is no shortage of educators who are waiting to be posted. Despite the low-cost pay, overcrowded classrooms, and lack of supplies, there are still many teachers who aspire to work in these conditions. The textbook, however, in some areas of the world where teacher shortage is a problem, most school officials often have to offer higher compensation to obtain more applicants. Central government contributes part of the cost of salaries in poor regions to help attract more applicants. Stewart, 2012, page 100. Zambia doesn't appear to have a shortage of teachers, unlike countries that I have read about in the text. Is higher compensation not important for the educators in Zambia? Why isn't there a teacher shortage despite the conditions? My personal thoughts and reflections to the article. After reading this article, I was hoping to find something new that I hadn't learned. In my opinion, this article didn't present any new information that I didn't already know. I was well aware of the conditions in Zambia and how they have a lack of resources and funding. I knew that schooling in Zambia was not on the same level as schools in other areas of the world, such as the United States. The article seemed to state basic facts regarding existing education and resources, while lacking a sense of real research and time examining early childhood education in Zambia and the effect that it would have on children and the community of Zambia.